I'm Kelsey Zeiser. I'm a senior editor at Light Reading, and we're here in San Diego at the OFC Conference. And I'm joined by the wonderful Julie Kunstler with Omdia. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so there's been so many topics covered so far. It's only the first full day.
Yes.
But there has been a lot of conversation around power consumption, especially in the data center, with the around GPUs, and the emphasis on AI is really kind of pushing that that power problem, I suppose. What are your thoughts on the discussion this week around reducing power in those areas?
Sure. So my focus is broadband access, and we're very concerned about power as you connect more people in the world, and as you connect them at higher and higher speeds, there's a concern about power consumption there too. The good news is that higher speed technologies like passive optical networking, which we abbreviate as PON, you can actually get much more throughput with 10G PON, for example, compared to GPON, but the power consumption does not increase at the same rate. So where you have 5 times the downstream bandwidth, 8 times the upstream bandwidth, you don't have the same power consumption. It doesn't, so per gig, you're actually at lower power consumption. So you're seeing a lot of really good technologies, good efforts, R&D around lowering power consumption, and that's hugely important. The second thing you're seeing is with different types of technologies, so that the customer, the subscriber, him or herself, can set up the home network, the customer premise equipment, the ONT in the home, without having to do a truck roll. You're also saving not only money, which is nice for the operator, but you're also saving the fuel consumption of the truck roll, and you're getting the subscriber up and running much faster. So we're seeing a lot. And by the way, anything that's smartly done in the home requires some amount of AI, whether it's in the network, whether it's in the equipment, whether it's in software, hardware, whatever. But artificial intelligence has always played a pretty big role in broadband access.
Definitely. Yeah, those are a lot of great points about it being beneficial both for the service providers, also the customers, being able to deploy that service faster and not having to, be on the phone with customer service. That's always a benefit.
For everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Offline, we were talking a little bit too about BEAD funding and broadband funding per state. Do you have any updates there on what's going on at a state but also federal level in terms of accelerating that broadband funding?
Sure. So the BEAD funding is being deployed state by state. Each state broadband office is responsible for running their own program, which in my opinion is great. I mean, we are the United States, and we sometimes forget how much power and how much authority each state has. But the reason why I say it's really important is a state knows, or a state office should know, the situation of broadband in its own state, and should know how to best use the funds, how much to allocate for different areas, how much to allocate to the underserved, the non-served, and also how much weight to put on different factors that are required in the applications. So there are some states that have already started to review applications. Other states are further behind, but we expect to see a release of at least some of the funding by state this year, and that's just the BEAD funding. One thing we have to remember is that you have to actually build the network, the optical distribution network, before you actually begin to deploy the PON equipment, the OLTs, and the optical line terminals, and then bring on subscribers. But it's starting, and we expect to really see the impact on the PON equipment forecast towards the end of 2025, 2026, 2027. There's also the BABA requirement, Build America, Buy America. So the latest rulings about that came out a couple of weeks ago. I don't think there were any great surprises there, but what you can see is that the vendors have done a great job at lining themselves up to meet the BABA requirements. And remember, an officer of the corporation has to sign that they're BABA compliant. So they're taking it seriously, because the penalty could include jail time, and I don't think any CEO or CFO or COO wants to be told they're going to jail because their team didn't do something right on that. But we're seeing a lot of alignment to get BABA compliance And it's different whether it's active components, passive components, because we know that there's certain parts of the supply chain that would take years to bring back to the United States. But there's others that are here already and set up to even expand to meet next generation broadband networks.
Yeah, that's good to hear, though, that they are taking it seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And that there's some levels of accountability there. You mentioned some forecasts around PON. Can you give us a sneak peek about what you're seeing?
So we're seeing a tremendously positive market for PON equipment, especially in certain regions. Just really briefly, region by region. So China continues to be strong because of upgrades, both at the network side, 50G PON, and at the ONT or ONU side, the customer premises to 10G PON, the use of PON beyond residential, which is such as smart cities in China. We're seeing tremendous growth continue in India. With a growing middle class, they need connectivity and they need strong broadband from home. And the U.S. market's strong with the funding coming in, both public and then private funding. We're seeing a lot of private funding. It can be bond funding, it can be private equity funding, but infrastructure is considered a good place for investment. We're also seeing certain countries in Europe have already deployed fiber to the home and have really high levels of fiber to the home penetration, and other countries are much further behind, such as Germany. And Germany is a pretty high population country. So once they begin doing more deployments, we're going to see growth there too. So it's a good story for the PON equipment market.
And just briefly, what are some of the challenges? You mentioned Germany being behind. What are some of the factors contributing to that?
So believe it or not, one of the factors in a developed country is that if you have a really good copper network or a really good cable coax network, the operator has an incentive to try to get the most out of that network. So for example, in Germany, they have very good DSL-based, copper-based broadband. So it's hard for them to want to put billions of dollars into a new fiber technology, build a new fiber network. It's happening, but it's just going to take longer than, let's say, in a country that's been heavily wireless, such as India, that hasn't had a strong fixed network, broadband network. And as you have more and more people wanting more and more bandwidth for working from home or studying from home, you have to move to fixed. And one of the key advantages of fixed is something like fiber. In other markets, like the U.S., we have to remember that more than 70 million U.S. homes still get broadband through cable. And there are cable technologies coming out, every few years that up the bandwidth, the throughput. So the cable operators have a situation where they have to decide how much more to put into cable technology upgrades versus how much to put into fiber all the way, such as PON. And they're analyzing it, and they do what they think they need to do from a competitive point of view or from a customer demand point of view. But there's a lot of room for growth, consequently, in the U.S. market, because over time, some of that 70 million is moving to fiber. It's not going to all happen at once. It's going to take many years. And that's one of the reasons why our forecast for North America is so strong for so many years, is that there will be more and more fiber to the home, fiber to the prem in the U.S., but it takes a while.
Right. Well, looking forward to future updates on that for
great.
you and that forecast coming out. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And have a good rest of your show.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Take care.